Thanks for inviting me to speak on this occasion. When we think about the recent passing away of Father Stan Swami, many people have been calling it an institutional murder. In fact, the statement that the family members of those who are involved in the same case, that is the Bhima Koregaon Velgar Parishad, also calls the death of Stan Swami as an institutional murder. Now, this is completely true because, as many people have already shown, also, there was a lot of injustice done to Stan Swami, and he died as a result of this. And what we have to really see here is that the first injustice that was done to him was his arrest itself. In fact, the police had been troubling him from 2018. They had been raiding his house, and there's also some people even say that they had an arrest warrant right in the beginning of 2020, and they had raided his house multiple times. In spite of all this, Stan Swami didn't run away. He was totally cooperating with the investigation, and still they arrested this 83-year-old man who is, you know, who has so many illnesses, who's not a flight risk in any way, any by any logic he is not a flight risk. In spite of it, they arrested him, and they also imposed the UAPA, under the UAPA. And as we know, and this is something that we have to understand about the UAPA, UAPA is used in cases when there is actually no evidence against a person, but still the government wants to punish them and keep them in jail. Because if there is a real evidence, you can show that evidence and arrest that person according to the evidence and keep them in prison. But if there is no evidence, then you resort to UAPA. What happens with UAPA is that the court goes by what the police says. The court goes by the police version, and everything is kept for the trial. Everything is kept to be examined for the trial later. And most of what the police says are very, very flimsy things. In the Bhima Koregaon case, as in the other cases, the Delhi ethnic violence case, the Athras case, the evidence that the police has put forward is very flimsy. And if it was any other circumstance, if there was no UAP involved, as we have seen in the Delhi violence cases, immediately the people can get bail and come out. But because there is UAPA, what happens is that this gets deferred. This is what has happened with Stan Swami's case also. He had gone for a merit-based bail last year, but then using UAPA and some of the judgments that have come out about UAPA in the Supreme Court, especially the Zahur Watali case, the court denied him bail. Now, if the court had given him bail, he, being so sick, could have got the proper rest and treatment and care outside in his own locality where he is comfortable, if the bail was given to him. However, that was denied. Now the prison conditions, as he himself told the court very clearly, made his health completely deteriorate, and gradually he started losing one faculty over the other. Now, my husband, Hani Babu, is also one of the people who have been arrested in this Bhima Koregaon Velgar Parishad case. And he has seen Stan Swami in the jail. And I have heard about, we get to know about Stan Swami from other people's call, and I have heard about him from my husband also. And he is a very sick person who has to be literally taken care of. He has to be fed his food, he has to get help while taking baths. His hands are constantly shivering. He has lost hearing and almost lost hearing, and he had lost hearing in both his ears. Also, he had many surgeries and he was seriously ill. So this illness deteriorated, as Stan Swami himself had said. It deteriorated once he went to prison, and he became even worse than what he was when he came in. Now, at this point also, when his health deteriorated also long back, what the prison did is that they did not even take him for a checkup. Like, we have a family group, and we have been hearing in the family group much before he was hospitalized or even taken for a checkup that he had developed throat ache and fever and cold. But what happens in the jail, especially in Taloja's jail, is that nobody is really cared for, even if they are sick. It's only when you have an acute sickness and the family members put a lot of pressure through lawyers that there is some action to take to kind of help the prisoners. So basically, three people have already died in Taloja due to COVID, due to sheer neglect. Very young people who should have been taken, who should have been given medical facilities, but were not given. Similar thing happened with Stan Swami also. By the time he had been taken to the hospital, he had been really sick. Secondly, they did not keep him in hospital. They immediately brought him back, and they also vaccinated him. They did not test him for COVID. Later, it was found that he had COVID, and the vaccination was done when he had COVID. And due to all this, eventually, in his post-COVID time, when he became post-COVID, he developed post-COVID complications, and also he was eagerly waiting. Like, he's a very direct and straightforward and simple and honest person, and such a person could not understand why why the court will deny him bail even though he is in a very serious condition. It defies all logic to anybody. So when he came to know that his bail hearing has been deferred, again postponed to another day, or the decision will be taken later, that is the day he actually developed his last illness, and his heartbeat started going down, and he had to be put in a ventilator. And within 24 hours or for 36 hours, he passed away. So this is basically a sheer case of institutional murder, and there is no doubt about it. And this is the first thing that I want to say when we are talking about Stan Swami here. Now, the second thing that I want to say is that when we are talking about Stan Swami, we also have to understand what he was and what he stood for, and why the police and the government are against him and were trying to torture him like this. Stan Swami is a person who had dedicated his life. He is a person who had, studied sociology, had gone abroad, met with other priests who were also like him, who had socialist inclinations, and he is somebody who believed in this kind of a political social service to the marginalized communities. So as part of this particular way of being a Christian priest, he chose to work alongside the Adivasi resistance. Now, this is something that we have to really remember, that Stan Swami is somebody who had been part of the great Adivasi resistance that has been going on for so long in this country. So now what is happening, one thing that is happening is that even when we are talking about Stan Swami, we are not talking about this Adivasi resistance, of which he was only a small part. What we have to remember is that due to this resistance against the corporations and against the government, due to the Adivasi resistance, their resistance against the government not following the constitutionally provided, the things that the constitution provide for the tribal community in India, their resistance to it, their demand that such acts be implemented, their demand that the clauses in the fifth schedule be implemented, which will give them right over their land, right over the minerals in their land, which will give them the ability to self-govern. Their demand that the court judgments that have helped them, like the Samata judgment and other Supreme Court judgments that have helped them be implemented. They have been fighting for this. They have been gloriously fighting for this for years together. And the government has met this resistance by the Adivasis against the taking away of their land and their rights and their wealth, mineral wealth, by corporates. The governments have stood by the corporates and completely oppressed and suppressed this resistance. And one of the ways in which the government has oppressed them and suppressed them is by by putting them thousands, like Gladson Dangdang talks about 30,000 Adivasi youth in jail, who are wrongfully labeled as Maoists just for standing up to the state. Now, Father Stan Swami fought for 3,000 such Adivasis, and he had gone to the court to actually question this kind of a false labeling of Adivasis as Maoist and pushing them into jail, imposing draconian laws like UAPA on them, and then just completely suppressing their revolt. He was, and this was a fight that is going on. So when we are talking about Stan Swami, it is very important to mark this resistance and to also talk about what is happening there. Now, another thing that I want to say here is that we are all now talking about Stan Swami. It really reminds me of the time when, and you can see that it has gone in a very huge level. The kind of attention that UAPA and the Bhima Koregaon case had not got before. Suddenly, after Stan Swami's death, we see that there is a huge attention on it. There's a global attention, and many people are talking even about the Bhima Koregaon case because of this death. So this really reminds me of the Rohit Vemula incident. After Rohit Vemula's institutional murder, similar in a different context, suddenly everybody was talking about caste in universities, and so Rohit Vemula's own struggles, and suddenly there was a discourse. But both of this are happening after a person dies. Okay, so this is also something I feel very peculiar to the Indian social situation, where we talk about these kind of issues, or we feel passionate, or we feel that a need or that urge or that urgency to talk about these issues only after a certain death has occurred. So now, however much we talk about it, Stan Swami or Rohit Vemula are not going to come back. So given this, we have to question why we have this kind of a politics where death becomes the only reason that makes us feel that urgency. When Rohit Vemula was struggling, when they were sitting outside the university, when they were forced outside, where was the attention? Where was the national attention then? If that national attention could have been garnered at that time, would he have died? Same with Stan Swami. When this old man was struggling, pleading with the courts, when he was fighting case after case, when he was arrested, when he was raided, none of us, there was no way in which this kind of a mass understanding of the case, or this kind of a media attention was not there in the case. If there was that kind of a media attention that we have now, would he have died? So we need to really think about this, and why do we manufacture this kind of a is it easier to do it after somebody dies? So if we think more about that question, we also have to understand that there are so many Stan Swamis that are waiting to die in Indian jails. For example, now I'm getting to know about this person, Ibrahim, who is also very ill, whose health condition is really bad. And it is very surprising that, politicians who are talking about Stan Swami um, are not saying anything about this other Stan Swami who could die any minute. And once he dies, will we again create this huge frenzy about Hawaii died and go into the case? What is the use if we do that? So at this point, it is very important that our politics that commemorates and that tries to mark the depth of Stan Swami and tries to discuss it and think about it and analyze it should also extend both to what he stood for, the politics that he stood for, the Adivasi resistance that he was a small part of, and to the other people who are incarcerated in the same way in various jails in India. And this is we have to bring attention to their cases, and we have to create a frenzy, media frenzy. We have to create a buzz about those cases also, so that they can also be they can also that so that their deaths are prevented, so that we are not pushed into this politics where someone dies and then we go into when all our politics comes out. Another thing that I want to say here is that the use of UAPA. This is something that as is being discussed, and this is a very good thing that is happening at this time, especially because 2 days before his death, Stan Swami had gone to the court, questioning the validity of some of the clauses in UAPA. And this is what is happening now also. This is a very good development after one of the good developments at this point is that there is a lot of questioning of UAPA. This is also combined, this is also kind of connected to the judgments in Asif Tanna and other people's cases that had come out in the High Court, Delhi High Court. It's also connected to the statements that were made by the High Court judges of Delhi. So there is a questioning, there is a mood in which many people are questioning the validity of UAP, and this is something that we have to vigorously do, because there are so many lives that are really under huge injustice because of UAPA. Now, one thing that I want to say in this context, because my own husband has been is incarcerated in this Bhima Koregaon Elgar Parishad case, and he is right now he is a prisoner in because of this. He's the 12th person to be arrested in the Bhima Koregaon Elgar Parishad case. UAPA is a draconian law which does not allow, which does not allow the person any of the rights that are given in a democracy. That the rights about rights to liberty and life. UAPA really denies people that, and this is what we have seen in the case of this is UAPA is something that really denies this right. This is what we have seen in the case of UAPA really denies a person this kind of a right. This is what we have seen in the case of Stan Swamy also.